Welcome to Off-Leash Public Affairs, a romp through news events and politics of the Santa Barbara area. The show is hosted by Kathy Murillo and David Pritchett.
I want you guys to know a little bit about my background. I'm a teacher. I teach computer science at Santa Barbara City College and have for 13 years. So I'm very familiar with teaching, and I also teach a lot of the students who come from the Santa Barbara School District and originate in Toledo also. So I see kind of what's going on the ground. I know what's going on with students. I'm preparing them for careers in industry. I also teach a lot of adults too who are doing career changes or who just want to learn something. Currently I'm teaching an iPhone programming class, which is really fun. So that's kind of the hot thing right now. So it's really nice teaching a class like that, very cutting edge. And we have a bunch of projects also with students which involve programming and very cutting edge stuff. So in Goleta, what we did is when we first got on the board, it was there were some difficulties with leadership. It was going okay, but there wasn't a lot of cohesion in the district. And what happens is it's really nice if you have cohesion, because when teachers are working together and we're all going in the same direction, we make a lot of progress. And so there wasn't a lot of that in Goleta. And so what we did is, when Susan and I got on the board, one of the things we did is, the first thing we did, which was probably the best decision I've made as a board member, is we hired Kathy Bloomer, who is the superintendent. And she is really a good superintendent. Very, very, probably one of the most competent people I've ever worked. I was on the team that vetted her, and when we went to her district to ask about her, people actually cried and asked us, begged us not to take her from them. And so that's how well loved she was in that district. And what she's done is, she has helped bring the district together, and that's what the board does. We provide the leadership. Basically, the thing I love to describe about the superintendent-board relationship is that the board steers and the superintendent rows. And so you've got to have strong board leadership to make a change in the district. And the thing I'm most proud of is we created a strategic plan. We got parents together with teachers and administrators and created a plan on how we're going to move the district forward over the next 5 years. And once we created that plan, we actually stuck to it. One of the things that boards have a tendency to do if they're not real strong is they get what I call kitten syndrome. They see a new shiny program, they go, oh, we'll get that, and they buy that and give it to the teachers. The next year, they see something else, they buy that and give it to the teachers. And the teachers end up having to run around in circles not knowing what the direction of the district is. With a strategic plan, what happens is when something bright and shiny comes before the board, we can go, oh, well, wait a second, it doesn't really fit with our direction. So you can kind of push those guys out the door, which is really nice. The plan has paid off tremendously. When I say tremendously, this last year, we had a 45-point increase in test scores across the district. From 26 to 72 points, and 5 points is considered successful. So we had a gigantic increase in test scores, which is wonderful. Now, of course, test scores aren't everything. So we also have band, music at every single campus, art at every single campus, and PE at every single campus, most of which taught by credentialed teachers. So it's really, really nice. It's been really nice to have a nice rounded program for the students. And that is something that I focus on. In the area of food, we have revamped the entire school food program. It's now uses lots of stuff that's locally sourced, locally grown, freshly made at the kitchen. We even put on the boot camp that Orfila has. We actually put that on this last year. And we taught our, let me give you an idea what happened before. Before, what would happen is they would basically open bags, pour in pot, put on plate, give to students. Not the best way to eat. Now what they do is the people that work there actually have knife skills, kitchen skills. They're actually cooking. And so they're making our own sauces, we're making our own pastas, we're doing all this stuff so the kids are getting the freshest possible food. And you know what's been interesting? The program is actually more profitable now than before. So it's actually doing better, serving better food, and making money for the district. It's no longer, it's not a drain on the general fund at all, which means more money for classrooms and better food for kids. So it's been a huge, huge progress. So I've been very, very happy with what's going on in Toledo. The key to all this is a strong board. You need to have the ability to disagree with each other, talk things out, and I got to tell you, in public, sometimes people are very reticent because you're held to everything you say. And so one of the things I'm most proud of is I am not afraid to discuss with people, to argue with them, and to find out what they're thinking in public. Yeah, it's just never been a problem for me. And I think that's one of the things I bring to the board is the ability to actually ask somebody. If they take a position, I'll say, hey, that's really interesting. Now, why are you doing that? And by asking why, you get much better results. Also, I know how to deal with administrators. What you do is you talk to them beforehand. You say, hey, I'm going to ask these questions. Prepare them. Don't just broadside it, because what that does is they can't answer your questions intelligently. And the idea is not to grandstand, it's to actually get information to make a good decision. So I always do that. I'm very, very good about that. I always talk to people in advance, let them know what's coming, and then that way when I ask the question, they don't get broadsided, and I get good information back. The process of hiring new superintendents, of hiring major people in the administration, and so I can bring that experience to Santa Barbara too. So if they do have a change in superintendent, I know how to do that, what to look for, how to involve the community. I think that's a really critical skill, because you cannot overstate the impact of a superintendent on the district. You really can't. Their personality and the way they do things permeates the entire culture of the district. It's pretty amazing to see that happen. So are there any questions? I've been talking a lot. I guess that's an occupation as a professor. But
how long were you on the board at Toledo?
I'm currently on the board, and I've been on the board for 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah. So, and it was interesting was when we first started doing our strategic plan, the first couple of years, not much happened. I mean, it takes a long time to change a culture. And so boards get very, very nervous at that point. And so what we could do is by exerting some strong leadership, we could follow that plan. Whereas before, if you didn't have strong leadership, they'd go on to the next bright, shiny object. And so by sticking with it, first year, not so much results, a little bit better the second year, and then this year we've gotten some tremendous results, and we're going to have good results next year too. As a matter of fact, we'll be probably one of the few districts to come out of program improvement in the state. So we made it this first year, we made it very, very strongly, and so we're in what's called Safe Harbor. And the second year, we're looking like we're probably going to make it. That's my prediction. We don't know yet. We won't know for almost a year. But if we do, we'll come out of program improvement. And one thing to note, though, is while the test scores are rising, California's threshold is rising even faster. They took the approach that we're going to have like a hockey stick where the first couple of years, the test scores can be relatively low, and then they go up towards the end to get to the eventual goal, which is 100% proficient for everybody. Everybody, including English learners, students with disabilities, all that stuff.
What percentage of the students in Goleta are non-English or limited English-speaking students?
It varies tremendously. It varies from like Mountain View, which is essentially almost zero, to El Camino, which is about 80 to 90%.
And how are the scores at El Camino?
Really good. As a matter of fact, they're over 800.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, the district, every school is over 800 except for one, which is at 795. And the amazing thing is, the increase was fantastic in of itself, but our English learner scores and our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, their gains were even higher. So the teachers in Goleta are actually closing the achievement gap. Yeah.
They work very hard then.
I mean, I have to tell you as a board member, it's incredibly gratifying to be on Goleta's board, because we've done a lot of really good work. Well, more accurately, we've provided structure, and the teachers have done really good work. That's who really does the work.
I see more differences than likenesses in the fact that it's a small elementary district. You've got the high school and the elementary to deal with so many different factors, as you well know. I mean,
there's some real challenges. But you know what? The thing I find the most different is culturally, there's a real difference. In Goleta, there seemed to be a lot more collaboration than there seems to be in Santa Barbara. There's a lot of collaboration at a school in Santa Barbara, but across schools you don't see a lot of collaboration, whereas in Goleta you do see a lot more collaboration across schools. And that's one thing I think we really need to work on overall, particularly in the secondary district. The high schools are basically islands unto themselves, and they really need to start working together. One of the things that's come out of this honors gate thing, the gate we like to call it, is the fact that they're going to start working across schools. And that's a really good thing. And I'm hoping that kind of is the model for all the other kinds of curricula that they're studying.
Do you think that a way to save money could be focused on the teacher salaries, the administrative salaries, the administration in general? Are those places to look for improving the budget?
I see. If you're asking about cost efficiencies, I think at this point we've been cutting so much, literally tens of millions of dollars over the last several years, that all the fat's gone. I mean, you can maybe find a thing here or a thing there, but the sum total savings is not going to be very much. I think right now what we're doing is we're cutting muscle and we're cutting bone off the school district. It's really unfortunate. The best I think the board can hope to do at this point is to minimize the damage to the classroom. I really don't think there's a lot of fat left to do. I mean, there just isn't. I mean, I've looked at it, and there isn't that much fat left at all. We can look at the administration, but let's say we cut the entire administration, which is unrealistic. it's only 6%. That's not going to do anything for a couple of years. So the only thing we can do is try to minimize that damage, and that's where I think I'll be helpful, because I do know the budget inside and out. I know the different titles and different pots of money, and I think I could go ahead and at least try to work to minimize that damage. But there will be damage. I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
Santa Barbara School District has neighborhood elementary schools, charter schools, academies, and would things be better if just they were all kind of classic neighborhood elementary schools instead?
Well, I think what you have to do is you have to deal with what you have. And what we have in Santa Barbara is we have a mixture of these schools, because parents would like to have choice in what they do with their children. And I support choice to a certain extent, but I don't support it to the extent where you start damaging all children. So what I would like to see is an increased equity among the public schools. And so if you increase the equity among the public schools, they'll become schools of choice for neighborhoods. And that's where I would like to focus. It's nice to have these other schools for people that really find those things important, but I think what we really need to do is focus on our regular neighborhood schools and improve them, help the teachers there do a better job. That's what I'd like to do.
Do you think the way the district allocates resources, say among a charter, academy, and neighborhood schools, is inequitable right now?
Well, there's a lot of legal constrictions on what you can do with charters.
Right.
In fact, the major attraction for people for some reason is that the charter schools don't have a lot of the same rules that we have to follow at the regular schools. And so you don't have as much flexibility in dealing with charters as you do in other schools. So, I mean, I can't do a lot as a board member for charter schools. They just have the reauthorization process that we have every 5 years, and that's about all we can really do with them.
Tell my viewers one or two reasons in your background or your experience, one or two reasons why you would be a good school board trustee.
Oh, great. A nice one. Softball. The reason, there's some experience. That's the main reason. I've been on the leaders board for 6 years. I know school budgets really well. I've made difficult trade-offs. I've improved the instructional program by allocating resources appropriately. So I think that's something I could bring to Santa Barbara. And that's something I could bring to Santa Barbara. It's fairly unique. I do have extensive experience. The most, as a matter of fact, of all who are running. We have another candidate who's got 4 years, and neither of the two candidates have any elected official experience. One has served a couple of months on a private school board, but that's about it. So that experience is really helpful. Also, when you start a school board, there's a 1 to 2 year ramp-up time that everyone has to go through, and I don't have that time. I'll be able to work from day one. I won't have to wait. I think that's a really important thing to bring to the school board, especially one who's on the verge of doing some really good things, but will need some guidance.
And when did you start on the Goleta board?
6 years ago.